And I tell some stories.
Yes, we want to hear the stories too. Yes, please.
Well, those of you know that I had two boys, and they were regular boys, but they knew that as far as church was concerned, what they were expected to do. And I guess both Chester and I had a reputation that our boys behaved in church. And the one story we laughed about was that once, right in the middle of his sermon, Pastor Long stopped and said, "Chester, will you go up and sit in the balcony with the boys?" Well, everybody knew why Chester was being sent to the balcony.
Things got a lot quieter up there then.
And the other story that I tell was, I can't remember who had been the teacher, and truthfully, I can't remember who the students were, but there was a Sunday school class up at the top of the stairway, and there was the storage area doors from that area. And the teacher would go up there, and there weren't any pupils. They were in the storage area, and she horsed around half the time getting them back in, so they decided Esther should see what she could do with that class. Well, Esther went up, and there weren't any kids in the room. They were hiding back in the storage areas. And so we got situated, and I think Esther pounded on the table and politely told them that if she prepared a lesson, they were going to listen to it or go sit with their parents. And maybe I said something else, but on the way home from church, I cried to my husband that I did something awful, that nobody would come back to the class, and why did I let talk like that? The next Sunday, when I went to go up to the class, I heard somebody say, "Here she comes." You know what? We had a fabulous year. Everybody was there every Sunday, and it did something for me, and I hope it did as much for them.
I'm sure it did.
But we laughed about it, but I sort of lost it, you know.
And that's just what was needed.
And then there's the other story we tell about. There were two young boys in church that both grew up to be very dependable men. But a gentleman that was, we'll call him portly, came in and usually sat in front of them. And when church would start, he would look for a piece of candy in his pocket. So they got and his pocket would stand open. So they got the bright idea they would collect some chalk and drop it down in his pocket. And so he sat down in church and got situated, and then about the time the sermon was to start, why, he looked around in his pockets and he felt something, and well, he must have some candy, and he put it in his mouth. And the people in front of him found out what he was eating when he spit it out. The boys didn't try that again. One turned out to be my husband.
Oh, my.
And the other story that was in my family was everybody wore hats to church. And Mother, we got ours at the Penny. There was a J.C. Penney in Orville. But when my sister and I earned some money, we decided that Mother should go to Fikes, the hat store, and get a hat. And she got this lovely hat with a straw summer hat with some kind of a big ornament on top. And we went to this funeral. I can't remember whose funeral it was, but a lady come in and sat down in front of her with the identical same hat on. And then just before the funeral was start, the third lady come in and sat down with this identical hat on. And my sister, that was too much for her. And she didn't laugh out loud, but the seats started to jiggle. And if my mother's looks were arrows, my sister got the message. And then these odd things that happen to you, and I'll close with that recently I was in the hospital, and things weren't going quite as they expected, and they were calling somebody else in for some help. And the lady said, "Would you like some music?" And I said, "Oh, that would be nice." And she put on some hymns. And in my mind I thought, oh, I know the words to that. So in my mind I was following along to the music. And I didn't realize it, but afterwards the doctors and the nurse watched me and how I relaxed, that they couldn't believe that instead of getting uptight about it, but I was following these hymns that I had learned when I was a child. And then maybe the next one I didn't know. Then the next one they played, oh, I know that in my mind. And I wonder if we often realize what the little things that are going to be important to us someday.
Yeah, very nice. Okay.
I hope that everybody else finds that St. Michael's is an important part of their life, as it has been for my family.
Well, thank you. These are treasures, these words that you've given us, and St. Michael's has been a treasure for you and for a lot of others too. So thank you for sharing today.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.